college athletes, and welcome to our panel. My name is Zainab Jan, and I'm a student at St. Edward's University, as well as your moderator for today's panel, discussing the controversial topic, whether it is okay to pay college athletes or not. So the ground rules for today's panel are, each panelist will be asked 3 questions and given 2 minutes to answer each of the questions. Panelists, please make sure you do not interrupt each other while answering the questions. Also, please wait until I restate the question for you to answer it. And panelists, please make sure you say your first name and your stance at the beginning of your first question. Audience, please wait for asking questions. We will have an open Q&A session at the end of our panel. And we're ready to begin. On today's panel, I have Soterios Chunas. He is neutral. He is a reporter for ESPN. Next up, I have Zach Manning. He's for paying athletes. He's actually himself a college athlete. Next up, I have Stuart Savario. He is against payment of athletes, and he is a sports agent. Next down on the line, I have Ben Cook. He is against paying athletes, and he's an athletic director for the University of Texas. And last but not least, I have Israel Soto Garcia, and he is for paying athletes, and he is a soccer coach. All right, to begin the questions, I'm going to start off with Soterios. What is your stance on paying athletes?
Well, hello, my name is Soterios, and my stance on paying athletes is I'm neutral because I agree with certain aspects of the controversial topic and disagree with certain aspects, such as I agree with paying athletes, but I disagree on the way that they should be paid.
Okay, thank you so much. Zach, what is your stance on payment of athletes?
Hello, I'm Zach, and I am for athletes getting paid for 3 factors: the amount of time they've spent outside the classroom, the risk of injury, and how much money they generate for schools.
All right, thank you. Stuart, what is your stance on payment of college athletes?
Hello, I'm Stuart, and I'm a sports agent, and I'm against athletes getting paid because a lot of athletes are already receiving help through the form of scholarships, and also I feel paying could increase the risk of bribes and different dark practices like that.
Thank you. And Ben, what is your stance on payment of college athletes?
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm against the payment of college athletes. And my reasoning is, do I wish I could give the kid that's 4th in the depth chart the full scholarship? Yes. But do I think he should get paid? No. Should I give the college athlete who was the best on our team a full tuition scholarship? Yes, of course. I'd be happy to. But alas, I don't think he should be paid for it.
Thank you. And Israel, what is your stance on payment of college athletes?
My name is Israel. I'm an NCAA soccer coach, and I'm strongly against paying athletes because division athletes already get so much. Look, some athletes get partial, if not entirely full scholarships, and that's just unfair to those who come to school for entirely their education. They dedicate all of their time for that. And not only do athletes get scholarships, they also get access to expert coaching, career development services, and I just think education should always come first over anything. That's the point of having institutions like ours. And I believe that paying athletes would give them an incentive to focus more on their money and their athletics as opposed to their education, which would be a waste of space for the class. And I also believe that implementing a wage would be very difficult because schools come in all different sizes. For example, a school like University of Texas could afford to pay their athletes much more than, let's say, St. Edward's. So that's why I'm strongly against it, because it would just be too complicated.
All right, thank you so much. All right, back to you, Soterios. How much do you think college athletes should be paid?
I think college athletes should be paid varying on the sport and what they do. Because many universities work like a business where they recruit athletes for their specific talent and abilities that they can bring to the university to make it look better. And I believe that based on that, they should get compensated for it, which many people believe they are compensated through scholarships and that. But however, a majority of athletes, depending on the sport, are not compensated through scholarship. Football, on hand, has 63 full scholarships in D1 that they can give. However, men's tennis can only give 4.5 when you have a team of 15 people. So most people cannot end up getting compensated for what they're bringing to the team. In that sense, I think it should be varying on the sport, and that is what I believe.
Thank you. All right, and Zach, what are the risks of injury while you're playing a sport?
say a player tears his ACL, he's most likely going to be out the remainder of that season and possibly the next season. Now, the school does not need to renew his scholarship. Most people believe when a recruit commits to a college, he gets a full ride scholarship, and that is not true. Just a few years ago, schools started offering multi-year scholarships to student athletes, and not every student athlete gets one of those. So, for example, a few years ago, Oklahoma student basketball player, Kyle Hodrick, had knee issues all year. He was never able to see court time. The school decided not to renew his scholarship, and he ended up having to pay for his own tuition and medical bills, putting his family in financial issues. So I believe that if a situation like this, we should get a small profit, small percentage of the money the school generates.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Stuart, how much money does your organization make?
Well, before I answer that question, I just want to apologize for earlier I said I was against it, and in fact I'm for college athletes getting paid. And now to answer your question about how much institutions make, well, since I'm a sports agent, I don't have a specific institution that I'm representing, but I can tell you that the amount of money these universities make are a lot of money. For example, the top 40 universities in income through their sports and athletic programs all make over $50 million through total revenue. And the top 10, in fact, make over $90 million, which is a lot of money. And they make it through tickets, through donations, through the brand, through the media rights. They make a lot of money doing money from the sports programs.
All right, thank you. Ben, your question is, why do you think athletes shouldn't be paid?
Well, because these college athletes aren't professionals. They are semi-professionals. We are not paying them for what they do on the football field or a court or any other type of sporting event. We're paying them through tuition, through financial aid, through meals, through housing, through travel to games, through other stuff of that nature, through compensation, and even through promotion. A lot of these athletes wouldn't get recognized by professional sporting teams if it wasn't for promotion. Take Longhorn Network. Longhorn Network is dedicated to Longhorn sports, University of Texas Longhorn sports. Softball players that might not normally get recognized will get recognized because every sport is played on Longhorn Network. And so a scout from a professional softball league will get a chance to see our players, and those players will get a chance to be recognized and have a shot at the next level. So not only are we compensating them through tuition and other means of money, but promotion as well to possible careers in sports.
Thank you. Israel, what is your income as a soccer coach?
So as a soccer coach, I usually make around $80,000 a year. That's about the average, but obviously it depends on the school. And as a soccer coach, I'm obviously not going to make as much as football or basketball, where guys like Urban Meyer or Nick Saban are making millions a year. So I don't really think my salary affects if players should be paid or not, but again, I am strongly against paying players.
Thank you. Back to you. I want to know, do you think that coaches make too much money?
Well, first, before I say it, also relating to him over there, I would like to say that coaches are an important part of sports. They are important to the connection between players and the university and their academics, and making sure that they have what they need when they leave college, making sure they're prepared. Now, to agree with him, I believe that a lot of coaches are paid too much, specifically football, for what they bring to a university. Like Nick Saban and them, they make millions of dollars, $7 million a year, most of them based on donations from Crimson Tide Foundation. But the base salary of them is $500,000 or $300,000 for a University of Michigan's head coach. And I think that's too much for what exactly one person can bring to a university. And relating to the University of Texas's tickets holding, before the coach left the ticket holdings were the same as they are now. It means the same amount of people bought the same amount of tickets the year before he left and the year after he left. So I think in relation to the academic part, which is a very important part of the university, I think they get paid way too much compared to a professor who may go through years of schooling and get a PhD, who on average makes between $60,000 to $180,000, depending on how experienced they are and if they have tenure, compared to a coach who may go to postseason but make $1 million a year and doesn't exactly contribute to the image of the university in a positive way, but may cover up some stuff depending on what happens. And that's what I believe about the
All right, Zach, this is your last question. How much do you think you should be paid as a college athlete?
Well, I think it depends on where the student athlete attends college and what sport they play and how much their sport generates for their university. For instance, the University of Alabama produced $143 billion last year. That is more than 25 of the 30 NBA teams and all the NHL teams. And last year during the NCAA March Madness tournament, the NCAA profited $1.15 billion in ad revenue, and that is $200 million more than the NBA playoffs did. The average NBA player makes $5 million a year, while during that NCAA tournament, not a single player earns a cent from their efforts on the court. We generate a vast amount of money for the NCAA and our universities, and we work hard and we exert a lot, so I think we deserve a small percentage of the amount of money that generates the university, and I am for student athletes getting paid.
Thank you. All right, this is your last question as well. Do you think paying students will lead to bribery?
Well, no, I actually do not think it leads to bribery because a lot of these athletes dedicate so much of their time to the sports they're in. It takes up so much time, so they can't have jobs the same way other students have jobs. They can't be able to have an income. So that's why bribes seem so appealing to them. For example, there was a case where some students were suspended for accepting tattoos in exchange for their signatures. That kind of practice, that makes it so difficult for them. That makes bribes seem much more appealing. If they get paid, they wouldn't have the need for money they do now, which is why I believe that student athletes should be able to get paid.
Thank you. Then, how much money do you take from revenue and give out to students in compensation?
Well, last year for football alone, we took in $109.4 million in revenue. I would have to estimate about $170 million in total revenue across all sports. We give out about $20 million in scholarships to football alone, and again, to estimate, I would say about $50 million to all college athletes. Now, that ratio is about 3 to 1, and while some people on the panel might say that, well, we have the money in revenue to give back to college athletes, yet we already pay them through a lot. We pay for their tuition, we pay for their housing, we pay for their meals. We do a lot to compensate them. Also, you're receiving a free education. A lot of college students that go through 4 years that aren't athletes, they walk out of college with a lot of debt. The average debt is $40,000 per college student. Most of these college athletes are walking away with none. Not only is the debt minimalized, but you're also receiving a degree from the University of Texas. When your sports career is over and you're looking for a stable income, you can go to almost any place in the world with a University of Texas degree and find and compete for a job. So yes, we take in a lot of money, but we provide the opportunities for them to succeed later in life.
Thank you. All right, for your last question, how many students have gone into a professional athletic career?
Okay, so according to Business Insider, baseball is the only sport where more than 2% of the athletes went into the pro leagues, and that just shows you how difficult it is to make it. And like Ben said, they're college athletes, not professional athletes. It's their responsibility, not their job, to play their sport. We're giving them an education, and they're expected to give back on the field by performing. And professional athletes, unlike our student athletes, dedicate their entire life, 24/7. They have to go on diets, work out, whatever it may be, in order to keep up the professional shape they need to be in. Unlike athletes where obviously you have to be in great shape and spend a lot of time, but education is still your primary concern. And college exists to provide people with higher education, so I do agree that the NCAA makes a lot of money off of college sports, but I think they need to keep that separate and not express that notion onto our players.
Thank you so much. All right, to conclude our panel, I'd like to thank all of the panelists here. I have Satirius Shuis, who is neutral to paying college athletes, and who believes this because they should be paid because they are selected to be on the team, and they do have a talent which enables them to become a team member. Right there, I have Zach Manning. I'd like to thank you for being on the panel today. He He's for payment of college athletes. He thinks that all college athletes should be paid a percentage of what the university makes, and that percentage should be paid and distributed among all the athletes. Right next here, thank you, Stuart Savario. I'd like to thank you for coming on to our panel. He is for payment of college athletes. He believes this because top colleges make over $15 million a year on revenue for these sports, so he believes that they should be paid out. Next up, I have Ben Cook. Thank you for being on the panel. He's against payment of college athletes because they're usually compensated enough through scholarships and meals and other things like that that not every student is given. And last but not least, I do have Israel Soto Garcia. Thank you for being on the panel. And he's against payment of college athletes because most of them are already on a full tuition and they're already getting so much money from the university, and paying them wouldn't really be a good thing. I want to thank all the panelists once again, and thank you, audience, for coming in and joining us for our panel. The floor is now open for questions. Yes?
So, do you think that sports have an effect on education?
All right, Zach, this question is for you. Do you think sports have an effect on your education?
Yes. Considering only 2% of college athletes turn professional, and factor in how much time we are working to get ready for that game, the average Division I football player practices 43 hours a week to get ready for their game. And along with that, we have to fly cross country for certain games to get ready. And since we are flying around the country, we are out of classes, so we tend to take the easier classes to maintain that minimum GPA that is required to play sports. And since we're taking the easier classes, this will affect once we graduate into the real world to get a job education, since we don't have a higher education as everyone else.
Thank you. Yes?
I would like to ask Ben, how many college athletes are given a full scholarship?
All right, Ben, how many college athletes are given a full scholarship?
Well, about 51% of college athletes receive some form of financial aid. And with that being said, there are 138,000 available scholarships to Division I and Division II schools. While that seems like a lot, think about the amount of schools in the country that are both Division I and Division II, and add in all the amount of programs, different type of sports programs that they have at each school. It's not a lot. It's hard to really get a precise number on how many full tuition scholarships are available, but we are doing the best we can. We are, however, limited by the NCAA with how much money we can give out and how many scholarships we can give out per program. So we do our best to truly help these players, but at the end of the day, it's out of our hands.
Thank you. Yes?
I have a question for Israel. How many classes on average does a college athlete take?
All right, Israel, as a coach, we'd like to ask you, how many average classes does an athlete miss?
Thank you for your question, and I'd like to answer that by saying it's very subjective. It honestly depends on the sport. So as you know, probably for example, baseball plays a lot more games than soccer or football athletes, so they're probably going to miss more classes. And it also really depends on the region or conference you're in. Let's say there's the SEC, the Big Ten, whatever it may be. It depends where your opponents are located, travel time, expenses, whatever. So I can't really give you an exact number, but athletes definitely do have to miss class way more than their other non-athlete peers.
Thank you.
If students were to be paid, what would be a fair compensation?
All right, students, this question is for you. If college athletes were to be paid, what do you think would be their compensation?
Honestly, I'm going to agree with others on this board that it really depends on the sport, because certain sports bring in more profitability than others, and others bring in, you have more scholarship than others. Such as I said before, football having 63 full scholarships and tennis having 4.5. Now, honestly, I like what the Pac-12 did, as shown by a study by Grantland, which is a sports reporting company. Pac-12 is trying to pass a legislation that allows athletes who do have fame to be able to go and use their fame in order to make money, such as getting sponsorships from Adidas, doing commercials with Nike, and making money off of that compared to the university having to pay them. And in my personal opinion, I think that's a win-win situation for both of them, because athletes get paid and compensated for what they think they fairly deserve, and the university doesn't have to break the bank on paying them besides just the scholarships that they have given out.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?